Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I've recorded a few past videos about what's happening in this country, and unfortunately they just don't upload, but I'm going to try again because a lot of things have happened. And, recently we had Don Lemon arrested, and an administration where their lies are not working, where there's video evidence to contradict what they're saying. The only way that they can attempt to try to control the narrative is by going after those who are telling the truth. Our journalists, those who are protesting, bringing attention to what's happening, and anyone who is in opposition to this administration, focusing on the Epstein files. And I just saw that more files were released, and there's pretty horrific things in there with Trump, Bill Clinton. There's other individuals such as Bill Gates. And you could see why they have been holding back. And a lot of people say, well, why haven't the Democrats ever released anything? Well, it's because powerful people love protecting powerful people. And right now, hopefully, with this information being released, we'll get to see that it's not about the left or right. It's about doing what is correct, okay? It doesn't matter if you're Democrat. It doesn't matter if you're Republican. It matters what is correct to do. And what's correct to do and what's right to do is to go after individuals who have abused children, who have abused and sexually, or SA'd, as they say. I have to be careful what I say, apparently. And this is not only to children, this is to adults as well. There are implications of murder here, and really just horrific things towards not only young girls, young boys as well. And you get to see how deep this goes and how the rich just look at anyone who is not them as being less than. Now, that shouldn't be surprising to most of us because we see what's happening as the rich just get more wealthy, and they have those who are not ultra wealthy fighting amongst themselves over culture issues, right? They want you to be angry at trans people. They want you to be angry at immigrants. They want you to be angry at fellow Black Americans they want to be angry at, women. The list goes on and on. The poor. If they can separate anyone and villainize them, they're going to do that. If somebody's stealing milk, someone's stealing, let's say, benefits, which, to tell you the truth, is to live, and they're going to make it look like, hey, that's the reason why you're paying such high prices. Mind you, do not pay attention to individuals like Elon Musk and everybody else who's taking a lot. So, recently, Donald Trump, spoke about Alex Preddy, and I saw some quotes in an article that indicated that Trump was calling Alex Preddy an insurrectionist, right? Saying that insurrection is bad, right? Which I agree it is, but this coming from a man who orchestrated an insurrection on January 6th. This coming from a man who has lied in the past just to try to win and manipulate the votes by asking in Georgia to get more votes. So it's really hypocritical that Donald Trump, of all people, saying that Alex Preddy is an insurrectionist when he himself, and someone said there's a telltale sign right now, we're Republicans, and lots of people, right? When they're so outraged about something, it's a kind of confession. I think this also is the same for people who are really offended and go after gay people. Look how many Republicans there are who are closeted. Grindr doesn't crash, during a Republican National Convention and then also get a large uptick during Charlie Kirk's memorial service, unless there's lots of gays, hidden in the Republican Party. And it proves the theory that they're one of the most, loudest against gay individuals and LGBTQ individuals, trans individuals. And it shows also, I saw the study that said in red states, their porn searches, one of the most prevalent is like trans porn. And I was like, anything that they're in opposition against, yeah. Now, I want to take a step back because everything that's happening in this country, right? And we see all the violence. We see that Renee Good. We see Alex Preddy. We see also, I think it's Keith Porter, who was killed on, I think that's his name. I apologize if I got it wrong. In California on New Year's Day by an off-duty ICE officer. Now, a lot of people are acting that this is the first time that we have experienced things like this, but I think it's at a larger scale. Yes, it is definitely more targeted, and they're not making excuses. They're not trying to hide the fact. But for many Black Americans, this has been happening since day one. We've seen so many people be killed just because they're in a neighborhood wearing a hoodie. We've seen people break into their homes, law enforcement, and kill them and shoot them. And a lot of people have been silent about that, not paying attention. And now it comes to their doorstep and everyone is outraged. And we should be. I think it's unfortunate that it's taken this much to wake people up. And to be honest, there's still people who are asleep. There's still people who are ignoring what's happening because they don't have the impacts to them. And there's a lot of people who lack empathy. They want empathy. They want, when they're suffering, for people to feel empathetic towards them. I mean, look what happened to Charlie Kirk, right? I felt terrible about it. I don't think that he should have died. But the same people who were like saying the left was being cruel are the people who really didn't acknowledge the killing of a Democratic politician in Minnesota, have not acknowledged the suffering of Black Americans in this country, have not acknowledged what it is like to be a trans person in this country. They haven't acknowledged the pain of those who are poor and without. No, they blame them. They say you're not working hard enough. Well, this system is not designed for everyone to succeed, right? You wouldn't have billionaires unless the system was designed to keep some people poor, okay? You wouldn't have a potential trillionaire unless the system's designed just to have the few be ultra wealthy. Everyone can't be ultra wealthy, right? And I think I hear a lot of people when they're attacking each other, especially on the right, when they say like, oh, boo-hoo, you're having to pay extra for health insurance. Welcome to my world. Well, I hear you. You're suffering. So instead of like shitting on somebody else, why don't you try to say, oh my God, we have the same problems. Let's band together. Let's not believe the narrative that's spread by these politicians that divide us. So I was just looking at my notes. In Georgia, they went after the ballots. Donald Trump has been obsessed with the 2020 election and his loss. He can't fathom it. And I have an unverified theory. I think that Donald Trump definitely tried to cheat in that election. And the reason why he's so upset, he's like, I cheated so much. I don't understand like how I could have lost. Obviously something's wrong because I cheated, right? But I don't think that Donald Trump realized during that time how unpopular he was and how much he really pushed people to vote against him. So let's say they cheated by a margin of, let's say, 3% because that's what they felt they need to push them over the edge. But they didn't calculate how many people there were that were going to be against them. Now, that's all unverified, right? But, it's hard to say, the evidence I have is that Donald Trump will not let it go because he feels like he knows something. Number two, anything that they are in strong opposition to and they are accusing someone else of doing, they have done themselves. There's my evidence, which is not really, unfortunately, tangible, but that's my theory. And I have to say, like, when they take these ballots and they start to release information that says, Donald Trump was really the winner, we found extra votes, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You've lied to our faces. I mean, I wouldn't have believed you anyways, but now definitely not. We saw the video of Renee Good. We saw the video of Alex Preddy. And no matter what you try to do and try to spin the narrative, it's not going to contradict what we saw, right? So if they're lying to us, even when we have proof, they're going to be lying to us when we don't have the proof as well. It just shows that they're constant liars. I saw that the bill that is going out, I think for the defense funding, a Democratic senator put in there that, hey, you can't arrest and deport American citizens, as ICE, right? And Stephen Miller went in and had that taken out. And the Democratic senator called out, said, okay, so I see that was taken out here. So obviously you want to deport American citizens. And that's anyone who disagrees with you. And right now there's a lot of people who support Donald Trump who are going to go, oh, it doesn't affect me, whatever. But I think that poem is coming true. First they came for so-and-so and you were silent. Then they came for so-and-so and you were silent. And then they came for you and there was nobody to hear you. So, Black Americans were being attacked and a lot of people were silent. They weren't doing anything. Now we're up to the point where you have American citizens being killed, right? Who are just fighting for fellow human beings, whether they're documented or not, they're human beings and should be treated as such. And they're being killed. I saw also that Donald Trump was talking about house prices, home prices, right? And anyone who thought that Donald Trump was going to go in as a businessman and lower the prices of homes, God bless you, right? And I say that in the sense of I hope that you wake up, because a businessman lowering prices for you, when it cuts into the profit of them as business people and making more money, yeah, right. So basically he said, no, I'm not going to lower home prices, because if I do that, that is going to take away from the people who bought homes and worked really hard for the value of their home. Now, keep in mind, when your home value goes up, you're paying a lot more in property taxes. So some people are being priced out based on the property taxes. And then also, if you have a dream of ever owning a home, while we're complaining about the cost of living, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. And, going into renting, I've rented before and I'm, in a current situation like that. It's hard because, they can raise your rent at any time. You really can't do much with your property or where you live. You have to share spaces, walls with other people. I really don't enjoy it. When I have next door neighbors who are basically loud and I hear the music loud, I actually don't mind that, because I'm okay, then I could be loud too. I don't have to worry about noise. Not that I'm loud, but speaking of, beyond home prices, you have car prices going up. The average price of a car, they're saying, is about $50,000. Now, I bought my car, a brand new one, first time ever in my life, probably last time, and it was about 37, right, after taxes. And I'm okay, well, that's not going to happen again, because these car payments are a little ridiculous. I usually don't like it to go above $350 for a car payment, and I'm double that. So again, if you work in the automotive industry, it's going to be difficult. And I watch on the news all these jobs being lost. And I laugh at it because people are still voting for Donald Trump. People are still supporting him. You had Amazon announcing job cuts. You had USPS announcing large amount of job cuts, right? And then I know someone who works at Target, and there's going to be cuts in March in their distribution centers. So, there's just no end in sight as far as jobs and where the prospects are going to be coming from. Where are people going to be working, right? I saw that in the healthcare area in government, that maybe there's more increase in jobs, because as you introduce policies that require more administration staffing to cover, let's say the job requirement, all these other regulations to make sure people, they say, are not cheating, that's going to drive up your cost. And then you're going to tout, this is what Republicans are going to do. They're going to be look, we're insuring less people, but it costs so much more. This is not working out, guys. This math is not mathing. Well, you're the ones that created the system to not work. You're the ones that created the cost to go up. So don't blame the Democrats for something that you're directly doing. Sorry, my car turned around. But and that's the thing. It's like, the high prices, right? I agree that sometimes things are out of, certain people's control. Like I try to pay attention to what's happening globally, war in other countries, driving up gas costs and other things, right? Right now, there's lots of things that are happening directly impacting prices that we pay because of Donald Trump's policies. Number one, his foreign policies with other countries, definitely driving it up, right? We're making enemies out of everyone. His tariff policies, driving it up. As we're losing all these jobs, it's driving up prices and also the monopolies. I'm just going to give an example. Like, I know a lot of people probably don't play games, but I'm really pissed off with the Xbox and Microsoft because they had this service called Game Pass, originally starting pretty cheap. Like I think it started at $10 a month. Now it's up to $30 a month. I'm sorry. I bought, a few months extra of Game Pass at the $59 for 3 months. And I have to say, after this, I'm going to downgrade or cancel because I'm not going to pay that much. I mean, I may as well just buy a game when they're on sale. And then I actually digitally own it, leasing it. And these companies don't care. They just want more money. Instead of like improving their services where more people want it, they just want to take their current customers and just price gouge them. So you have like Paramount wanting to buy WB, Warner Brothers. Now you have Netflix, going to potentially, they're probably going to win and buy it. We don't need more consolidation because it's been proven. When companies consolidate, they just raise their prices. There's nothing, they say like, oh, this is going to be better for the consumer. No, it's not. I saw AOC was grilling the CEO of CVS, who owns kind of a circle in the healthcare industry, meaning you go to your pharmacy, they own that. Go to your doctor, they own them too. The health insurance plans that you use, they own that too. And then you're kind of stuck in this loop and circle, and they can price you however they want because you're not going to leave the system. You're feeling like you're getting a benefit. Everything's easy and convenient, supposedly, right? But it's costing you out the ass. So the rich just keep on getting richer. And I'll just leave with this. Make sure you voice your concerns. Make sure you vote. I know a lot of people say that they're not political, but politics isn't everything. So we need to pay attention. You're like, I'm upset about these rent prices. I'm upset about the price of living. Policies. That's, again, politics. Sorry. You're like, I'm concerned about my health care, about like how much I'm spending, and I'm worrying about like my next meal, where it's coming from. All that's politics. All of it's policies about, wages. And so I was naive when I was younger, just not voting and not paying attention. But a lot of what has happened is because of me not paying attention, not doing my due diligence to vote. Now, I know I'm just one person, right? But all of us together can actually make a difference. That's the thing, is that we can make a difference here. So it's really a crazy time that we live in. The lack of empathy is large. I've seen lots of people on the left get outraged and say that, one day there's going to be, repercussions for the individuals who have done so much damage and violated laws, and whether it's towards citizens or just individuals who are undocumented, how they've manipulated the system to make it where they're afraid even to go to their scheduled appointments, therefore marked as criminals. It is just really terrible because this country has been built on immigrants and has abused immigrants. There's lots of people who have paid taxes and don't get any benefits. They take jobs that nobody else wants at pay that nobody would accept. And then we use them, right, to get our cheap commodities, right? When we go to the grocery store and all that other stuff, we're paying cheap, and we don't care how. Everyone's silent to it, letting, let's say, certain farmers and other companies use this labor, and then we villainize them and we attack them. They can't win. And we've done the same to Black Americans. And this is why, in my opinion, just to close, I think the Voting Rights Act never should come off. I think anything that are guardrails to prevent someone from doing something criminal or bad against a citizen should stay there. Because one day there's going to be a person who wants to challenge, and there has to be those guardrails in place. So as the Supreme Court says, oh, we don't need these laws anymore. What? No, we do. I think that this time proves it. Racism is alive and well. I saw the documentary with Michelle Obama, and there's a few things that were reminders to me. The White House was shot at, right? There was so much racism, which I knew. I saw it. There was like people creating like effigies, right? Or like these stuffed things that look like Obama, and then hanging them from trees. And then showing a noose on a sign with Obama's name. So like everyone who's like saying that they're really shocked and appalled by the protest that happened at a church, right? And said that's not right. Well, you're forgetting a lot of history in this country where you were silent with much worse, where people were killed, where there was many black churches that have experienced killings, burning of their churches. So, just look it up. But you were silent then. And I have to say, a protest where nobody was killed or hurt, right? Compared to those events, it's not apples to apples in that comparison. So I think it's important that people pay attention, right? What's happening now is terrible, but to tell you the truth, I think that a lot of this has been leading up to this, to be honest, because we have not dealt with the racism in this country. We have not dealt with our issues. In fact, it's almost like those family members who just don't talk about the issue. They're just like, okay, we had a fight, let's just move on. Let's not address it. What eventually that does is just allow for bad behavior to continue, and it just lets everything boil over. So that's what we're doing, and I think it's time to look in the mirror and face it. They want to erase, black history, the slavery. They even want to go after, contributions of the Latin community. And I get really upset with my fellow Latinos because, those who are voting for Donald Trump, the racism in the Latino community, it needs to be addressed. There's so many things, like even me as a gay man, there's so many things in the LGBTQ community that we have to address. The hatred towards trans people, the hatred towards other gay people. Like, just because you weren't ever called an FAG, just because you weren't ever treated a certain way, doesn't mean that other people haven't, right? Stop using just your experiences alone to say like, oh, I've never experienced that, so nobody has. That's kind of ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So anyways, I want to leave off on a positive note. And I know I said goodbye like 3 times, right? Things are changing. You're not alone. That's what I should say. You're not alone. Other people feel the way you do. I know that social media and so many things makes it seem like you're crazy. You're not crazy. You're not in this void of just despair. There's other people. There's hope, right? While the Republicans and Democrats, or Republicans, I should say, namely, talk about anger and hate, and that's what they pride themselves in, and that's what they see as macho. Why live your life like that? That's toxic. Let's err on the side of building each other up, having hope, compassion. Kindness spreads. And I understand people who do not want to forgive, especially if they've been harmed by people. You don't have to. But I will say this, I'm trying to be compassionate, empathetic, but like a lot of people, I am being also tough in holding people accountable because they need to. You need to be held accountable. That's tough love. You may see it as being cruel. No, we're trying to show tough love here. There's no way that you're going to learn unless you actually face the repercussions, okay? And take some accountability. So, hope you have an enjoyable rest of the day. I hope you enjoy the week. Hopefully I'll be able to do more videos. Leave a comment. Tell me your thoughts. I hope that you're doing okay. And Bye.